Hi, I'm Amy Wilkins, leadership coach, former media exec, and your host of Thriving in the Messy Middle. This is a space for women leaders navigating those in between seasons, the moments when things feel uncertain, stretched, or messy, and you're trying to find your footing without losing yourself. Some episodes are conversations with remarkable women leaders sharing the lessons they've learned along the way. And other times, it's just you and me, slowing things down and naming what's really going on. Think of this as a place to reset, reflect, and reconnect with what matters most. Because thriving isn't about having it all figured out. It's about learning how to grow, lead, and move forward, even when things feel messy. This is Meb Francisco, and she is a force at the intersection of data, technology, and leadership. As the EVP of Data Product at Choreograph, she leads global teams across AI, data operations, and compliance, all with the goal of connecting unstructured and structured data to maximize the value of every signal. Now, before Choreograph, Meb served as global head of audience and data enablement at Mediacom US, helping major brands like Uber and Netflix and Target use data not just to target audiences, but to truly understand them. So, Meb, I am so happy to have you here today, and I'd love for you to share a messy moment in your career, one that was really pivotal or really important for you.
Amy, thank you for having me here on this platform. I think it's critical that there's a space where people can hear other stories and understand that in the messy middle, you're not alone, that others have gone through it and you
Yeah,
can too.
love
There's a
it.
lot to pick from, but I would say the one that really shaped me most intensely, where I had the most awareness that I was going through the messy middle, or how I reference it, my metaphor is the arid desert, was when I was making the transition from Group M multicultural analytics lead in North America, and I was moving towards a more data-centric platform and a tech-centric role within, at that time, it was M platform at Group M. It was a messy middle for many reasons. One was I'll never forget how I'm sitting onboarding my new boss, and he is just excited that I'm there. His name is Tanvir Danish. To this day, I have an amazing relationship with. So this man is like just ecstatic that I'm there. You can feel the energy, and he's like, and then we need to do this, and then we have to do this. I can't wait to see what you're gonna do with this. And he was just throwing acronyms and acronyms and acronyms. And I come out that meeting saying, I don't know what a CDP is. What did I get myself into? And that was the beginning of a messy middle for me, or the desert,
Yeah.
or the desert at that moment in time.
Yeah. And say a little bit more about what made it an arid desert.
Yeah, again the reason that I use that metaphor to reflect the messy middle moment. It's because when you're in the desert, you can picture it. It's just white sand, unleveled, dry winds blowing at you. There's uncertainty. There's uncertainty of where you fit and what value you provide. And you feel so alone because, God forbid, you admit that maybe I'm not 100% ready, perfect for this role. And maybe
Mm,
a percentage of me that needs to continue to learn and grow. It really speaks to that sense of um, loneliness as well. That you feel,
yeah.
at least I felt that I had to be perfect, check all the boxes.
Yeah.
Um, it also felt like nobody else was experiencing anything like this. And most critically, it felt like I would never get through it. It's
Yeah.
just long and extensive, and you're exhausted.
Yeah. There's a lot here, but I actually want you to share
Yeah.
what did get you through it.
There were three key things, and they all speak to why you should never think about this moment in a vacuum, and why the importance of understanding that in the messy middle, you're not alone. Number one, I had the awareness. that there was gaps that I needed to fulfill my role. So the first thing was being vulnerable and admitting that I wasn't perfect. Admitting
And to who?
to myself first and foremost,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that was the harshest critic was me. The sense
Right.
that, oh my, that, again, it goes back to that feeling of, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
And it came through. I had to speak to myself and coach myself. And I'll never forget this moment where I questioned, why am I here? What value? Oh my God, they're going to find out that I am, um, that I'm wrong from the role, that I'm, the words escaping me, fraudulent. It's really
Wow.
like,
Yeah. I'm a fraud.
I'll be
Yeah.
caught unworthy of opportunity.
Unworthy. Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to strap myself and coach myself and realize, no, 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 Meb, nobody gave you this role. Nobody was being nice to you. Nobody thought you were kind or friendly. There's something that you have that they need. So own the worthiness that is in you and understand the value that only you can provide, because nobody has lived your experiences. Nobody has taken the steps you've taken, and nobody provides a unique perspective that only you can.
Yeah.
So you weren't given the role, you earned it. That seat is yours, and you're gonna woman up and you're gonna take it. Because what
Yeah.
is given to you, nobody can take away from you.
So it sounds like it all started with you getting really aware
Yes.
of it, right?
Yes.
This is not something that I didn't earn.
Correct.
And I do think it's really important to talk about the fact that so often they don't take roles unless they do know
Oh my
100% of
God.
it.
Yes.
And right? And no offense, but that's boring.
Yes.
Right? Unreal. And if you have to know 100% of it, it will be boring because you
Exactly.
will be choosing a job that you're
That you've
like,
already
I
done
can.
a million times. You haven't
That's
grown.
right.
You haven't
Right.
grown.
And
You won't grow.
yeah. So, what would you say to someone who wants to take that kind of a leap, the kind that you did, right? Where there was that gap? What would you offer?
You miss every opportunity you don't take.
Yeah.
And if you are more analytical or mathematical driven, there's an opportunity lost and cost
Yep.
not taking that moment.
Yep.
Because if you
Yep.
wait for every variable to be perfect, you'll never get there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's again why the whole metaphor of the desert is so important. And for me, it was just hit me so critically, is because after you go through that desert and you realize you come from the other side, you realize how much you've grown.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
just, oh my God, after that, it's, I can do anything upon risk.
Right.
Because you go through an experience like, oh, if I could do this, I could do that. And
Right.
that's very empowering too. We forget that.
Yeah.
We forget that you've probably been in many messy middles. You've probably gone through many deserts in your life, and you've overcome them all, and you will
Yeah.
overcome them again.
You said in the very beginning, let's not do this alone. And I say that all the
Mhm.
time. We don't have to do this by ourselves. We think we do. Who else was there to support you?
So I started with self, and then I became vulnerable with my boss. And I have to, amen, Tanvir, if you're hearing this, love you. I always remember this, because the amount of grace and kindness. And
Yeah.
it is like, to be vulnerable in business and in general in life, it's very scary,
Mhm.
because you're basically putting a lot on the table that you're taught from very early on. At least I was. You have to keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
be vulnerable and open and say, I need help. There's absolutely things I can contribute, but there's things I need to learn. And for me, it was advocating to my boss at the time, that I needed an executive coach to help me, guide me beyond him, beyond his day to day, you know, mentoring. I needed somebody outside of the organization to help me through this journey. And I was like, that's powerful, one, to admit it, because the big shock was like, of course. I was getting, you should have seen, I did my homework, I prepared. I was like, well, data
Did you have a
I
PowerPoint? And yeah.
and this is how it get by. And by 3 months, I expect to be here. And he was like, yes, of course. That's why we have these resources. And you know what? I've taken an executive coach, and it's been amazing for me.
Yeah.
And that was also the first time that I heard a very senior leader admit that in their senior roles, they've taken executive coach.
Yeah.
Now I think it's more open and accessible, but at that moment in time, it felt to me that no, I can only get there if I don't need any help. So
Yeah.
that was very encouraging that he was so open and that I got
Yeah.
the resources I needed. Because that's the key
Yeah.
thing from anybody who is on the other side. You can't just expect people to say, I need help, and then not be there to give them the help they need.
There's two different types of challenges, right? There's the adaptive challenges and then the technical challenges. So you were aware that there were technical challenges, there were certain things you didn't know. And it
Yes,
was those adaptive challenges that were actually getting in the way,
absolutely.
right?
And then they
Yeah.
were self-driven and focused, and
Yeah. They usually are. They
it's
really are.
self-sabotaging, right?
Yeah.
When you go through the
Mhm.
messy middle, it's almost,
Yeah.
oh, that's the excuse to, and it's not an excuse. Let me reframe that. I really believe that it's a way for us to psychologically protect ourselves,
It absolutely is. Yes.
right?
Yeah. That's what saboteurs are there. They come and their job is to lie to us
Yeah, yeah.
and to keep us right where we are.
Comfortable,
Yeah.
complacent. Yeah,
And yeah. And there's just a complete lid on any possibility
yeah.
as long as the saboteurs are in the driver's seat, right?
Yes. So when you're able to understand that you have more agency than you give yourself credit for,
Yeah.
when you understand the value and the worthiness of who you are, of your very own
Yeah.
essence, when you're able to embrace and lean into the desert, listen
Yeah.
to the sounds of the winds where it's leading you, because that's probably west, and that's where you'll find
Mhm.
your exit. Lean
Yeah.
into that experience to say, I don't know, but like my mom used to always say, nobody is born knowing.
Nobody.
So if it could be taught, it could be learned. And if
Yeah.
they learned it, I can learn it too.
I love what you just said. Coming out of the desert, it's as you become more aware, all of a sudden the path begins to make sense.
It wasn't until I started leaning into it, I became
Mm.
hungry and curious
Yeah.
and saying yes to things. Like things that I'll never forget. There was a very specific project that needed to be resolved. My boss at the time said, okay, who's willing to do this? I raised my hand. He's like, Meb, you do know that if this doesn't go right, let's just put it this way, whoever leads this, if it doesn't get finished, this is a fireable reason. So basically, if you fail, you get fired. You sure you want to take this on? I was like, yeah,
Hmm.
because what do I have to lose?
Yeah. Wow. And how did it go?
Turned it around. It was one of the strongest case studies. But I busted my butt. I was literally next to engineering every day. I would have a
Yeah.
list of questions. They would answer it. I'd come back the next day with more questions. They would answer
Yeah.
those. I'd come back to the next question with more questions. I learned what it means to be performance driven. I learned how to do lookalike modeling. I learned how to drive impact of every dollar and ensure that my end deliverable and outcome was going to drive business impact. And I did.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
raised my hand to the next challenge. It's like, okay, that was just a trial run, if you will, a small little case study. Now I'm going to lead one of our biggest clients that at that moment was about to fire us because they felt that we couldn't deliver their audience first planning approach. Again, I said,
Hmm.
I'll do it, I'll take it. Within 1 year, we had over double digit growth for that account.
Wow.
I had won over the client.
Yeah.
And when the client came over to WPP, one of the first thing he did was, where's Meb? I want to work with her.
Mm,
That's the
that is so great.
person that only a year
Yeah.
before was terrified and doubted
Yeah.
herself.
So it's that moment of terror when I literally have no idea what I just signed up for, to signing up for the things that nobody else would sign up for, knowing how challenging it is. Like, I'm going for it. I love that.
Yeah, because what do you
So,
have to lose? Your
yeah,
life is so short, and then you're gonna write the story of your life, and what is it gonna say? That I
yeah.
missed every opportunity, that I was too scared to live it to the fullest?
I'm curious how this has impacted the way you lead.
Mm. With more empathy. because now I am more in tuned to when my team is asking for help, when they are leaning into challenges. It to say thank you, to
Mhm.
give people the opportunity to go deep, but still say, "I'm here for you. I got your back." Allowing people to understand that they are seen, that they're heard, that they're worthy.
Mhm.
Because when I was going through that desert, I was just, again, going back to the analogy, I would thirst for just one kind word. And I was very grateful that I was able to find it. I was in an environment with people that would be willing to teach me and willing to let me learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, how can I not do that for others? How can I not lean into others' journeys and say, you can not only you can do this, give them the tools they need, and give
Yeah.
them the kind word sometimes to remind them that you can get it through. You can get through it. If I did it,
Yeah.
you can too.
And I'm also thinking that when you raise your hand for that big project, the team that works for you is also working on that project, right? So it's like when you go, I'm going for the big one here, everybody's, oh my gosh, nice, me too. Yeah.
Absolutely. And even to this day, like I have, if you're, again, I'm now on a product role and I'm very aggressive and very driven by quality and very driven by ensuring that the organization gets the fundamental data that is needed to drive performance and impact on our client's business. And it's very aggressive, and I make big bets. And
Yeah.
the team follows up and says, "Okay, well, we're going to go into this messy middle with you," because they've built trust
Mhm.
that they're
Yeah.
not doing it alone. We're doing it together.
They're doing it with you. Is there any other things that you can think of that you'd be like, oh, I would really want somebody to know this about these times?
I think there's three. I'm sorry, I keep going back to three, but I do. I've learned that powerful number, and the first one is when somebody extends a hand and says, "I'm here to help." Believe them. Lean into them.
Mm,
Take that hand.
yeah.
Don't just
Yeah.
fall and scrape and try to
Yeah.
do it on your own. Take that hand. The hand is there to really bring you up. Believe people when they say, "I'm here to help you." The second one would be to lean into your community. And your community could be your family, your partner, your children, um, a club that you are part of, a team. Be vulnerable to say, it's not going that great right now.
Yeah.
Feel that this is a really hard moment because there is power in vulnerability. I
Hmm.
fundamentally believe that. There is power in saying, I'm not where I want or think I should be.
Yeah.
Because that's when you can get uplifted and surrounded.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, remember you've done this before. Maybe
Yeah.
it took a different shape. Maybe it was a jungle.
A different, yeah, different
It
terrain.
was a different terrain. But you
Yeah.
have gone through the messy middle many ways and many times in your life, and your personal journey, and your career journey. And if you've done it before, I guarantee you that you will get out of this again because
Yeah.
nothing lasts forever. Everything ends, even the hard times.
Everything. Yep. Even the hard times.
But you
Yeah.
will get through it. I assure
Yeah.
you will.
So this is actually one of the reasons I really wanted to do this podcast is
Mm,
so that people like you would share that kind of story because when we're in it, we actually don't think that's true,
yeah,
right? Like when it's super messy, it just feels that way, right?
yeah.
And it's my intention that people get to hear a story like yours and go, oh my gosh, wait a minute. First of all, she's right. I have been through them before. And look at me, I'm still standing. And not only standing, but I'm rising. And so I think I'm so happy that you said that. I love that. Anything else that you want to leave with?
I think there's one last thing that actually
Yeah.
the reason why, and again, after that experience within and platform, there was more times where I purposely went through the desert. I purposely went through a messy middle. I chose. But the reason why I became braver over time was because I followed up with a letter to myself. It was towards the end of the messy middle. I was seeing the success, seeing, all those efforts come to fruition, building out all those case studies. I took a moment to write a letter to myself to remind myself, to give myself grace, because I didn't want to forget that I had overcome.
Wow. Wow.
I saved that letter, and next messy
Yeah.
middle, I went and opened it.
That is an amazing thing to recommend to everyone here. Like when you've been through a messy middle, write about it. Acknowledge what you've come through on the other side.
Yeah.
And I love, love, love that what you just said is that actually going through a messy middle enables you to choose messy. Like, how cool is that to actually get to a place where you can choose it because growth is coming? And I think that's the power of the messy middle, is that there's so much growth on the other side of that. And getting through a messy middle moment can get you to a place where you choose it in the future.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really grateful to have you, and all this wisdom that you just shared is amazing. So thank you.
Keep going, Amy. This is amazing. And to our listener, embrace that messy middle. You'll thank yourself for it tomorrow.
Yeah. Grab hold. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope something you heard gave you a little clarity, or maybe just a sense that you're not alone in this season. The messy middle isn't something we pass through once. It shows up again and again, and each time we meet it with a bit more awareness, a bit more choice, and a lot more self-trust. If this episode resonated, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. And if someone came to mind while listening, share it with them. That's how this community grows. You'll find links and resources in the show notes and more ways that we can work together at chooseaw.com. And I'll leave you with this reminder. You are the most worthwhile project you will ever work on. So until next time, keep thriving, even in the messy middle.